what the hell are INEOS using that big black box for on their jib track? Well, today we're going to look into it and see if we get some answers about exactly what this does and how it may give INEOS a little bit of advantage in AC37. Right, so when INEOS launched their boat, straight away it was visible that they had this twin track on the deck, but nothing was attached to it, so it was very hard to picture exactly what it did. I instantly thought it'd be something to do with changing the jib sheeting angle, because I know from my own experience that with a self-tacking jib, one thing that's quite hard to control is the actual sheeting angle at the clew, because obviously you've got one thin track and changing the angle of where that goes to is basically pretty much impossible with a single track. So the second track I thought would give them a way of kind of hauling down on that jib sheet, but I was kind of eagerly anticipating INEOS coming out the shed and seeing exactly what they had on here and understanding exactly how it was going to work. So when INEOS came out and we saw this, I was kind of, well, intrigued, but also a little bit disappointed because it's so hard to understand what's going on. It is literally just a black box on the boat. Now, there's a load of lines going forward and backwards along these tracks, but from all the views we've had on it, it's been really difficult to understand exactly what's going on with these lines. They're all white, and from the perspective, it's very hard to see where they go and what they do. We can see these three orange lines going into the black box, and these are hydraulic lines, so we know there are three hydraulic chambers in here, but how this whole moves around, we don't really know. And yeah, a bit of a mystery. Is this a sophistication or an overcomplication? I feel like that's a question we're going to be asking a lot about INEOS. Well, just this month, INEOS treated us to a capsize, and I love a capsize. From a tech point of view, we get really good vantage points. So here we are looking down, bird's eye view on the deck, and we can learn so much about what's going on. Now, it's a bit confusing because the lines are still all white, but we can instantly see, the three orange hydraulic lines going into the black box. So three chambers there, maybe one chamber sheets on the jib sheet and two chambers move a track forward and backwards to change the sheeting angle. That would be my theory. But we also get a really good insight into exactly how this twin track is working and how this car. So first of all, let's have a look at Emirates Team New Zealand. And they've got what I would call like the classic skiff kind of self-tacking jib. It just flips across, pushed by the wind onto the new side. The jib sheet is this line here, goes around a turning block into the clew, and you can only really change the sheeting angle by changing the attachment point on the clew, and you can't do that while sailing. You have to stop and reattach that. In terms of how far outboard the jib sits, that's done by this line to the center, and it's a single line, so it only stops this going outboard, but when you tack it, obviously just slides across. This line goes slack and it hits the stop on the line on the other side. So it's basically the same as what most international 14s have. 49ers, 29ers, RS800s all have a pretty much similar thing, except instead of this central line which you can actually adjust on the fly, we have pins that go in the track which stop the car from going out, and again you have to kind of stop sailing to change those pins. But this should be a pretty familiar arrangement to everyone and is simple but very effective. And when you go downwind and you ease the jib a little bit, it kind of blows out. Now this isn't an issue in a skiff because you've got a huge spinnaker up which is giving you most of the drive. As long as the jib's not really causing any hassles, it's kind of fine. But on these boats, the AC75s, they won't have a spinnaker, so actually the jib becomes probably a bit more important. So they do want a way of keeping leech tension on when the sail is eased out a bit more and keeping a bit more belly in it. So they're probably looking for a little bit more sophistication in their sheeting. American Magic, if I just click on them, this is them. Again, capsize, it's a nice view. Now it's a bit harder to see here because they've got black lines and a black deck, We can see the same arrangement with a jib track, jib blocks there to the clew which is in the water, and you can just about see very faintly this is black line sheets this jib car inboard to this central point. So again, very similar to what Emirates Team New Zealand had. But it has been a difficulty for American Magic, and we can see they've been working at this. This is one system they trial. They put a secondary block on here to give them a second sheeting angle. So if they sheet in through this line, they're sheeting right, obviously this block sits further forward and they're in the top clew hole, so they're sheeting down the leach of the sail, which gives them as close a leach and as deep a sail as possible. But then if they sheet through this primary line, they get a slacker sheeting angle. This is the problem that INEOS are looking for a solution to, a way that they can make quite large changes to the angle that their jib sheet goes to the sail by moving it forward and backwards, but still being able to slide across the boat. This is the system we've got set up, and it looks quite complex, and well, to be honest, it is kind of quite complex. This white outline is of the jib car box, which is a huge thing, and then you can see the 3 hydraulic lines going in. I've coloured them because in reality they're all white, so it takes a bit of tracking down, but you can see there's this hydraulic chamber with a double-ended ram, so you've got a little piston between the two, and if you fill up the port side chamber, this blue piston rod will move to starboard. That'll pull on the red rope and give slack into the green, and you can see what that does to the system. So when you pull on the red rope is on a -3:1 ratio, so for every centimetre this piston moves, this red rope through here will move 3 centimetres, which will pull, dead-ended here, will pull this jib car up to windward. As the piston moves to starboard, the jib car moves up to port, and obviously as this moves, it puts slack into the system, into the starboard lines. And then the crisscrossing, this took a bit of a while to track down, but the crisscrossing is basically to stop this whole arrangement twisting and jamming up. So if you just move this box around, this jib car round at the aft end, then what will happen is when you move your jib sheeting angle forward and you cross load this box, it will jam up on the rails. So they need a way of making sure that the front track moves at the exact same speed as the back track. So they have these secondary lines which crisscross over. You can see so the red one's attached, goes across the boat, and then attaches to the other side of the box. So it stops that front of the box kind of wiggling around as best as possible. I don't know, what do you think about this? I think it's, I don't know, is it clever? What does this allow them to do? It allows them to sheet up to windward. So on the Emirates Team New Zealand one, it's just one line. It always use the wind to push it over to the new side. This one has to be hydraulically moved to the new side of the boat, which means you're using oil to do that. But it does mean you can actually sheet your jib up to windward above the centre line. So you can see them actually sheeting the jib car up to windward to bear off, and then they drop it down to leeward again. You can see as this jib car moves up, this purchase moves down, and yes, it's got some benefits. It means, well, first of all, they can hove to eat their cucumber sandwiches. Lee, hove to, Bleffin, Scandaliser Main. Giles, are you in charge of the body box today? Also means if they get Pete in a hook, they can take him right up to windward, and then they can back the jib to bear off, whereas Pete with his central jib car in-hauler can only bring his jib up to the centre line, so it allows them a speedy bear away from head to wind. And yeah, if they're really shit at tacking, it means they can get out of irons quickly as well with this this arrangement. Apart from those benefits, I'm not really sure how much it's adding. I mean, it allows them to move this this sheeting angle. You can see here the sheet is coming out right the front of this slot. This is the steepest sheeting angle. If they didn't have this elaborate arrangement, that would be twisting the box. But it's a lot of line about the boat, and it means they're using hydraulic power just to tack it, not just to move it in or outboard like Emirates Team New Zealand and American Magic are, but they're also using hydraulic pressure just to move it across the boat. So yeah, really interesting system. Again, you can see the 3 hydraulic hoses in. 2 of those hoses are probably moving a slider forward and backwards to change the sheeting angle, and the 3rd hose may be turning a rotary pump to sheet on. That would be my guess. But yeah, quite an elaborate system from them to achieve this. The flip side is, if you put this all below deck, have a new deck level which comes through like here, so that this line is just coming out the deck nice and fared, then potentially all this ugliness and extra bulk will be hidden, and it could be quite a good way of getting real 3D sheeting which the others aren't able to have. So yeah, let me know, do you think we'll see this turn up on other boats? Do you think this is something clever INEOS have done, or do you think it's over complication again, like the main sheet drop down system? Ooh, talking about the main sheet, I have spotted some modifications on the INEOS main sheet, and this turned up from Alan in the post, and I think it's a kit so I can make my own INEOS main sheet track to show to you guys exactly what's going on. So yeah, I look forward to doing that in another video. Catch you around. Goobs, did you make the sandwiches today? Well, next time, cut the muffin crusts off. We're not savages.